we are always like, what can I say? There's a point where we are gonna strip ourselves of individuality and the things that we like, just and then attribute that to society. Because there are certain things that you are equipped with that make you better suited to do a certain thing, and you might be drawn to that sort of thing because you're good at it, and not because society has said that people that are like this.
Yes, I agree with you.
So I'd like to think like, let me not say majority, out of being, trying to be safe, but a lot of people are doing things that they want, not because of what society.
The thing is, take into account that there's a difference between doing what you want without society influencing you, and you thinking that you're doing what you want and society is not influencing you.
I accept that. Yeah, I accept that. And there's no way to
differentiate
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So now with this issue of
I think, man, there's socialization, but the core of the socialization is probably the family structure. What you grew up witnessing will probably
influence you. There's no way of escaping it now.
The social issue. So if you grew up in a broken home, you'll probably be broken in some way and not want to get married or whatever.
Yeah.
So
now with the issue of sexuality, right? Like you're gonna grow up in a family where there are only boys there.
Definitely.
Right? And you're a girl.
Yeah.
So you mean to say
they tend to become tough. You tell them you never
tough, but their sexuality is what? That's where I'm gonna go at.
I don't think. Okay.
I don't think that influences your sexuality.
Yeah.
I think it's just like
more tomboyish, like
but how you carry yourself.
Yeah. So maybe you might now, only after presenting those qualities where you are tough, right? Now you might find so many women coming after you because they assume you're of that type, and maybe because of that you might actually find yourself being in a relationship that you didn't imagine you would be in.
But now my question is this thing, Farah. Out of everyone in the world, right? In your estimation, what percentage is actually brave enough to actually go and explore their sexuality? Let's say a straight guy, right?
I don't think it's things that you... Okay, but you can say that. But I don't think you have to go and explore your sexuality.
People explore their sexuality. No,
but I don't think it's a thing that you need to do.
I think those ones are actually socialized to be gay.
Yeah, I think maybe those are the ones who are socialized.
They're not too sure.
No, but okay, don't get me wrong. Like, exploring your sexuality doesn't mean you are like, hey, I'm a guy, but I want that nigga's ass. I'm not saying like that.
What are you saying?
I'm like, okay, let's put it like this. You know how in society you can be a hoe or you can be a brood, right? Those are the two extremes. Then most of us would prefer to be somewhere there in the middle. You understand? That's normal for most people. But then some people would be like, you know what? Maybe I want, to explore the other stuff, play with toys, or that's still exploring your sexuality. Yes, you're doing other things that are not really that conventional.
Oh.
If you're gonna put it that way, then I can accept.
Yeah,
exactly. Because it's for me, exploring your sexuality. Because from the definition that I thought I had before having this conversation is that you obviously, there's a certain point in life where you are assigned the sexuality by nature.
No, I don't mean it like but I don't think exploring sexuality means like anyway. I wasn't referring to it. No, I meant like your sexual preference, like myself. Like what is it that you like? Or do you just want to be the wife? Like I'm missionary, it's done. That's it. This is done. What I said. Some girls want to be freaks, man.
I understand that. Oh yeah, in that sense, yeah, of course.
Somewhere leather.
So that would be a preference, and that I think I've been struggling to find this definition. That is what sexual preference is about.
Yes,
not
you
partners, because it's like your choice of sexual partner. Determined by the binary thing about who is man or woman, right? Yeah. Not that. Sexual preference cannot be that, because I think that is determined by certain factors in your biology at adolescence. No, I meant like, whether or not you get to be with a man or a woman.
Oh,
yeah. So that's what I was thinking. Like, no, that is inherent. That is inside.
I honestly don't know. But either way, my point why I brought up how many people do you think would have the free will to override society's taboo? You know how we like to associate sex with taboo, right? Most people still stick to that thing and never escape it, right? The reason why I'm bringing this thing up is because I feel like most of us are easy to control, man. We are basically controlled by being socialized. That's true. By being socialized, and we never have the will to fully escape it. That's why the media works. if the media, if we were not so easy to control, the media wouldn't work. That's why people still advertise stuff, because they know what the effect of it will do.
Yeah.
And that's why we have psychology stuff. They study the psychology to know how to even further manipulate you even further,
Yeah, of
so they
course.
keep you socialized.
Yeah, I understand the media, and
So-
I mean we can also look at like the Soviet Union, right? They had this thing where individuality was not encouraged, or Germany per se, during the
see?
time that Adolf Hitler was.
Out of Hitler, yeah.
Right, you could not be an individual.
And you saw how
So
those
you
ones
all-
became.
So it you know it's sort of like, what can I say? This thought that you have that we work for a common goal, right? It's a good one. I think that's a good one, because obviously we all want to survive to see, you know, our kids living out another generation and making more kids, right? And I think that's a good thing, right? So obviously we work towards a certain goal in that way. But the way that it was with Russia and Germany was so much so that it was, I mean, it was called out at the end of it, because obviously it, you know, people can realize when things are not working out. And I feel like, you know, we're going to come back to social order again after a while. And I feel like even if we get to a point where I find myself being gay now because of social pressure, after a while we're going to see that, nah, this thing is not sustainable. I mean, people are supposed to explore their own sexuality in the way that they feel. And then after a while, it's much like what's happening now. I think obviously there have been centuries of fights, you know, obviously about do people get to be gay or not. And then right now, the consensus is that, yeah, people can be if they want to be, or if they feel like they are that type of person, right?
And okay, let me put it like this now to make things a bit more challenging for you. Imagine if you were gay in 1975 or 1960 and you're taken to a psychiatrist. Would they help you or just make you worse?
They'll make you worse, I think.
You see? They'll
Yeah.
just make you worse.
But I understand that. I understand that. So it's like,
So that's why I keep saying that times normal is continuously changing.
it is, exactly. So,
That's why I made that example of the schizophrenic person. We don't fully understand him now, but in the future, it may turn out that that dude is actually seeing something that none of us were seeing. It's normal. You know?
it is possible,
Too
yeah.
gifted.
Yeah. Or he's
Exactly.
simply just.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing. We don't have that information now. And why don't we have that information? Is because somebody gets a schizophrenic episode and then walks into the road and dies. So obviously we try as much as possible
to survive.
to let that person survive.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we get to a point where we find out that this person is actually communicating with people from different galaxies, and you know, we can know to stabilize them somewhere and, you know, channel this
So they
information,
can be aware of what
Yeah,
their surroundings.
even if
in
they
this
are
thing.
not. But we can control their situation. They're not
Yeah, because
gonna
they're sort
die
of in a
because of
state
it,
of
right?
psychosis in a way, detached
Yeah.
from reality.
exactly right. So if an alien wants to speak to us through a person, and then we find a way to try and decode that information at some point, I think that'll be very acceptable, and I think human beings are gonna be drawn to that.
Yeah, I suppose for now, I guess it's best just to stabilize them,
Yeah.
because that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To save themselves from danger and all that stuff.
yeah, I suppose we can agree on one thing based on that statement. What brings danger to yourself and others is what should be treated, right? But I feel like
Yeah,
things
that's the
like
current consensus. Yeah.
that's the current consensus. But I feel like things like schizoids, they have no danger to anyone. They should just be
Yeah,
like,
well, with many of these disorders, right? Like, depending on how I'm feeling with it, and if I see that I'm not really making it a problem for that person, due to how not so welcoming the industry, this psychology industry is to people like that, and you know, they tend to take away your gifts per se.
and society completely.
And the society itself, right? I would keep it to myself for as long as it serves me. If I don't think it's like it's ADHD, like look at ADHD. Those people can rock shows, my man. Like if you're gonna be a rapper and have ADHD,
Yeah, you're going to be insane.
right? So now you're gonna be on depressants. Now you're gonna start singing trap now, and that's what you want to do, because obviously you can only do that now because of the medication that you're on.
Yeah, I think this reminds me of this thing in Buddhist. You know, in Buddhism, there's two types of Buddhas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the Bodhisattva, and then there's the other one. I forgot the other one now. But basically, the Bodhisattva is the person who has the potential to be a Buddha, right? They're basically a Buddha, but simply just don't want to transcend fully. So they try to integrate themselves into society, teaching the way. the way of Buddhism,
Mm.
helping other people to become enlightened. And then there are other Buddhas who simply, as soon as they become enlightened,
It's
they
a
detach.
Buddha.
Exactly, Buddha. That's why I always call things as Buddha. Yeah.
Mm.
So they detach completely.
I see.
But the thing is, that's the funny thing. For them, for Buddhism and Hinduism, nothingness is the final state.
Mm.
So always transcend.
Basically, because the way they explain it, it is life in itself is a wheel, right? Known as samsara, especially in Buddhism, because I'm more familiar with Buddhism. I don't know much about Hinduism, but there are a lot of similarities. So in samsara, there's different levels of existence.
Mm-hmm.
So we live in the human realm. That's the level of existence we live in. Below us, there's the animal realm, you know, and then there's plants, obviously, the stuff, things like plants and animals. I think they're all sort of in the same realms. But I don't think plants are actually regarded as living because they don't have consciousness.
Well, that's another story. But
You know,
And maybe we just haven't found a way to
maybe-
localize the consciousness.
Yeah.
Maybe it's there.
Maybe
the
it's
leaves,
there.
mate.
Maybe, yeah. But the point is that they're not regarded as having
Yeah.
consciousness in
Mm.
Buddhism.
I
Animals
see.
are regarded as. But then below that, there is hell realms now. Different hell realms. You see? But then above, there's heaven realms. You see? Of peace and heaven, basically. But they still say that we are in the preferred realm.
the humans.
The humans. We are in the preferred realm
Oh.
to achieve enlightenment. Because the aim of Buddhism is that the wheel of samsara spins continuously because of us people who stuck in it. So in the middle, there are three animals of the world. There's a snake, there's a bird, there's a pig. So they say the things that keep the wheel spinning. Samsara basically translates to suffering. You see? So the aim of Buddhism is to alleviate suffering, escape suffering. No?
Mm-hmm.
So things that lead to suffering is the three animals. The snake is wrath and anger. You know, all the negative aggression and jealousy and all those things. The crane is attachment and desire. With the crane, the bird. Then the pig is ignorance. So they say basically you can boil it down to all your entire life of suffering into those three things. Ignorance, as we've spoken about. People don't know that you're suffering. They cannot relate to you. You suffer, or you cause suffering to those ones because people cannot understand you. You are attached. You see, you can be attached to ideas, or you can be attached to physical things. It could
I
be
see.
an idea that is constructed by society, and everyone is attached to it, and they force you to be attached to it, even if you don't have to. That makes you suffer. Or you are attached to your own ideas, and you cannot see beyond it. Because the problem is there's two views in life. Your subjective view, what you see, and then there's the objective view, which is the collective view. Sometimes the collective view is wrong, and you're still subjected to it. Or sometimes your subjective view is wrong, you're subjected to it. But the point is, all of us are attached to something that makes us suffer,
I see.
and that breeds now the aggression. Now become bitter because of his inability to,
To adapt to those.
to adapt to these weird attachments that we have created for us and the desires that we have. They always breed the anger and bitterness because we don't fully understand what we are doing regardless, because of our primitive state that we are in, which is the pig now, the ignorance. Our ignorance is making us suffer due to our attachments. But so they're saying, so the only way for you to be free from suffering is to be detached completely from those three things: desire, attachments, and your emotions, basically the aggression and stuff.
But we are living in this world where you must be successful in this world. I'm just using success as one of those things that is desirable. You must be successful depending on whatever definition of success you know or you have.
It depends
So
on what
it's
success
it's
is.
a desire. You desire to do things, to achieve things,
Exactly.
to have a car, to have a job, to
ambition,
have a house,
yeah.
ambitions.
And what is it?
So-
Attachments, right?
It's attachment. So,
But where do you think the source of the attachments comes from, though? Is it the thing that you actually want, or is it the thing that you want because society has deemed it?
that's what the society has deemed it.
That's exactly.
Yeah, but also there are
Yeah,
things
so-
that you have, what do you call it? You just have an ambition for because, well, that's what you would like.
The thing is, Farai, your true desires disappear as you get older. You don't really know what your desire is right now because you've been corrupted beyond recognition. You don't think you even know yourself at this stage. Even I don't think.
I
know
think
myself.
children
Yeah,
are the
but
only people
also-
who have true desires.
Yeah, that's basically what Buddhism believes. So they basically say your aim is to basically to get back to that state, but obviously in a more awakened way.
Yeah, but then the problem is now being like a kid is not so great for people because
That's why I'm saying in a awakened way. Obviously, you're mature.
you see, I have
But
a
still
big
having a-
problem now with Buddhism now. Who is feeding these monks?
Hmm?
Who is feeding these monks here?
They plant them and eat. What
and,
are you
then,
saying?
and then come out of there and go into planes and come here to Africa
How so?
and expect for people not to strive towards like convenience and things like that.
What are you referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, let me put
No,
it.
I just thought like obviously if you're gonna leave a very simplistic way of life, right? Especially with the population right now, I don't think it's gonna be as manageable as they think it is.
No, monks don't say don't strive, man, to live. Okay, I think what they normally say, right? The first things they teach in Buddhism is awareness.
Mm.
You will not suffer if you are aware of things. In fact, even in philosophy, beyond Buddhism, there's a thing called bad faith.
Mm.
It is whereby you're not fully aware of yourself
Mm.
at the specific time when you make a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Even in soccer, it's a big thing. I mean, you can't just receive a pass without knowing what you're gonna do next
Yeah.
and where you are.
Yeah,
and
but
stuff like that. So
like for example, right now, okay, let's speak about the subjective views, the
Mm.
stuff that I was speaking about, the projections. Like where I said it's not what's happening, it's how you're perceiving it.
Mm.
If you are not aware of that, it could be that what is happening is really not that bad.
Mm. Mm.
But because of the
Mm.
way you're taking it in,
Mm.
you begin to suffer from it because
Yeah,
you're not fully
saturation.
contextualizing, breaking this thing into the pieces that it actually is, man. I'm not sure how to explain this thing.
No, I'm getting you right now.
So the Buddha always, well, the ladies who teach Buddhism, the lady who was giving the teachings, like she made an example of something like this. If someone gives you a sweet
Mm.
and you taste the sweet, if you hate it, in most cases you just hate it and you want nothing to do with it.
Mm.
If you really like it, you possibly want more of it.
Mm.
Or you could simply be like, it's fine, I can live without it. I can be fine or I cannot be fine without it.
Mm.
But most of the times, you just simply do those things without really acknowledging them.
Mm.
So what awareness means is like, I don't know how to explain. It's like you're continuously aware. Even if I like something or I don't like something, I know that I'm not aware of it. So for example, if I see my girlfriend with a guy, I don't just get mad because I'm jealous.
Mm.
I get jealous, fine, it's fine.
Mhm.
I accept that I'm jealous.
Mm.
But then afterwards,
What
I need to be
about
aware as to what
what's
is
happening?
it that is exactly making me aware before I start
Mm.
making harsh choices.
Mm.
Then now I can assess as to like what is the proper state. So in that wheel, as I said, they have different levels, right? Hell realms, that's suffering basically, punishment.
Mm.
People who are not able to escape those projections that they had,
Mm.
so they're continuously suffering from those things
Mm.
because they are not. I don't know, man. They're simply just unable of sitting down with those thoughts and rationalizing them, so they can
Mm.
get through whatever it is that is making them suffer. But then in the hell, in people who are nice,
Mm.
turns out they go to higher realms. So there's the Asura.
Mm.
Mm.
They're sort of like demigods.
Okay. It sounds something else.
Asura.
It sounds like something else in Shona, but anyway.
Yeah, but my point is, if you are simply just a good person,
Mm.
they believe you'll be rewarded. You can become levels and levels of God, where there's no pleasure, which is exactly what we want, right?
Mm.
But even those ones, the gods will die.
Mm.
So the aim for them is simply just to escape dying, basically, I guess.
Mm.
Suffering and dying.
Mm.
But I don't know, bro. We can speak about Buddhism the whole day. Because even they can't explain what nirvana is, but which is the final aim.
Mm.
They say you'll only know once you get to it.
Mm.
Which
Yeah,
again,
no,
is,
No, I think it's a concept that is profound, and people can find utility in it. I just had a beef with, saying that, you can't have an internal feeling that just draws you towards a certain goal, without it being the society. I mean, especially like we've been speaking about people that do not conform, right? So obviously they're going through a different path altogether compared to other people. Maybe other people after doing their degree, they went to go and do an internship.
Mhm.
Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you
Yeah.
just want to be a guy that beats drums the whole time
Yeah.
Yeah,
until
but
the
my
sun comes down or something like that.
but my point was though, like I think when I brought up the Buddhism was that I don't think everyone wants the same desires, man.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? I
Mm.
feel maybe for you that is truly your desire. Maybe you actually do want the money
Mm.
and all of that stuff, right?
Mhm.
But perhaps you are not aware as to why you want the money. That's why I was speaking about the Buddhism and the awareness.
Mm.
You understand?
Yeah.
I think J. Cole raps about this thing all the time.
Or else the negative aspect that comes with what you want, which might lead to mental illness as well.
Yeah, or simply that
If you
you're
chase money, then at some point you're gonna get depressed.
Yes, I think some people chase the money because they're trying to cover up the insecurities, man. You feel like if I attain that life, it'll make my life simpler. But the problem is, it doesn't. You see,
Also, I want to get out of the
to your own suffering because you feel like, because you assume that that's what society is built on, right? That is what the pinnacle of success is. If I am successful as I'm expected, then I won't suffer.
Yeah. No, I think there's strife to alleviate a problem, no? And I think that's an honorable thing to do. Now, like getting access to wealth and stuff like that, that comes from a different place in the heart compared to the one where somebody's just trying to make their situation better, right? So I feel like people that are striving to just get out of poverty feel very good about changing their
the circumstances.
I think of course, and I feel like that's a very positive thing. And now chasing wealth by rapping until you get like $600 billion or anything close to that is obviously a different situation altogether, and that might bring depression because now you get all this fame and all the money, and now you're sitting there thinking like, what's going on here now? I am here now, but there's not anything that I was hoping to achieve. Right? You don't want to stop feeling the way that you feel about yourself because you have $1 trillion in your bank account.
Okay. I think this is one thing we'll be stuck in a circle forever.
Yeah.
But now my question is though, since we are here, based on you guys and the way we've discussed this whole thing, what do you think are some of the ways that someone or any individual can how can I say? I was going to say avoid, but let's say escape depression and anxiety.
Let's see.
Before we can get into that, I think let's keep that for the last point.
There's still points.
Just one more point about social media. I don't think we have touched.
Yeah, we did not really
social
speak
media.
about
You
it.
see, I feel like depression is prevalent these days during the time of social media because people just want that instant gratification. If it doesn't happen, then they start to feel like nothing's happening in their lives through things that they see on social media, of which people on social media don't really show the bad side or the struggles of how they get to the struggle they went through to get what they have. They just show the final results. And then some people, especially young people, 16 years, teenagers, they see their final product but don't see the struggle. So the moment they don't get to hit that at a certain age, then they start to be depressed. So I feel like social media somehow also contributes to mental illness as well. Mainly anxiety and depression.
Yeah, social media is a funny thing because now you could just be chilling there on Instagram and somebody applies pressure to you from New Zealand. And these are things that weren't supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to know that somebody in New Zealand now has a Bentley at 17 years of age. But then now because you're sitting there on Instagram, somebody's gonna pop up with a picture like that, and maybe it's borrowed. We don't know the story behind that car, but you're gonna have this enormous amount of pressure exerted by somebody you weren't even supposed to meet in your whole life.
You don't even know that person.
So that's why I think maybe social media is a factor now. I mean, we did speak about magazines back in the day, right? Like you did say that people still had ways to pass media from one state to the next or across oceans and stuff like that, right? But I do kind of feel like right now, I think one of you guys was going to speak about this over sensationalization of these disorders, right? And I think somebody said something about being in this constant sad state now, making songs like that, and then making money out of it and stuff like that.
Or like a marketing ploy of some sort.
Yeah. I think hip hop is at that state now. Emo rap is like a big thing. But I think it's simply just a reflection of the times now. Because there wouldn't be a market. If people weren't depressed, it wouldn't be seen so cool. I think it's only so cool because people relate to it.
Okay.
So now everyone just feels
it's not necessarily a bad thing because I feel like...
I don't think so. Because
for some people, you might stumble across such a song and maybe relate to it, and maybe it might do wonderful things in your life. We don't know.
I think it's good in a way that such things are becoming more spoken about because it brings awareness to something. But it has a bad side though, because it makes people who are depressed sort of glorified. They feel okay with and don't feel like they need to go and get help. Instead, they rely on what the rappers do lean and all of the stuff, or Xanax, which we've seen now. Most of those emo rappers that died, they died because of overdoses of Xanax.
Whereas it should have helped raise awareness to this
Exactly.
problem.
I think
And
that's
you
the
know
one
what?
thing that's missing from the raps, because they don't speak about
Yeah.
how you can get help. They just
Exactly.
say, I'm sad. They glorify it, and everyone now, hey, I'm also sad.
Exactly. Yeah, it's bad.
But speaking of rap, KOT is probably one of the most important rap album that has ever come across the
Yeah, in terms of mental health wise.
in terms of mental health wise and how to deal with pain and process pain, man. It might not be the good album,
Yeah,
sonically and all that, but the
message-wise-
message-wise, it was
Yeah.
on point.
Yeah, but I think people were dissing Cole because he just said meditate. What? Meditate? Like what to do? What extent?
Yeah, well, there's only so much you can do with a song, I think.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like maybe people ought to be a little more forgiving.
Yeah, but I think he
when
should
it
have
comes to
tried.
that. But it starts with, I guess
Oh,
he should have made it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
And the thing is now, you see, if you're gonna make it very dense with too much information, people don't engage with it.
The thing is, I think people are not saying that KOD is a bad album. They're saying the problem with it is that he's just scratching the
Yeah,
surface.
you should have had like maybe possibly one or two songs in there, like with an actual thesis about.
And the
this whole
problem
thing,
with him, man, he comes across as a bit condescending in the album, especially with the 1985 Arrive. He's condescending as hell
Yeah,
as a kid.
I think it's a bit of balancing both sides, man.
Yes, but if you listen to it, there's times where he's like with friends, right?
Mm.
Where he says, "And I'll always be the guy to be the bigger man as I always am." You
I
see, now such things now make it seem like.
of course.
So he comes across as someone who is not really suffering from the stuff, but sees other people suffering and doing the wrong things.
I see.
And now he's merely just saying, you should meditate.
Reminding, yeah.
Yeah.
You understand? Because I think the one song where he actually comes across as someone who has suffered is that song where Once an Addict.
Nothing, yeah.
But even then, he is not the sufferer. His mom is
it's
suffering.
speaking so- yeah, of course.
But somehow his mom suffering also affects him in a way.
But
Even though he was in a way.
But what did he do? He ran away.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing.
But I think the most important thing that you can take from the album is how to process and deal with pain.
I appreciate the album for that. It brings awareness to the thing. That it's way more complicated. I like the different dimensions of addiction that he brings.
Yeah.
Media, guys looking at girls and being addicted just to the image of the person without even knowing the person. And they feel like they're in love with someone they don't know.
Hey.
Anyway, so it's, I mean, it has brought me to this point where, I'm also now starting to think about drug use, because I think I read somewhere where it says
It goes
even
along with
things like
anxiety.
with weed, if you're constantly using weed, it might lead to other problems like having other drugs as well, right? And weed alone itself also, like with continued use, has been studied to, and results at this point are starting to point at drug-induced psychosis.
Yes. And people who
So-
have depression and
Anxiety.
bipolar, schizophrenia, anxiety, tend to be addicted to substances like drugs and alcohol as well.
Exactly,
Which
right? Further exacerbating the problem, right? So
it
it's
worsens the psychosis as well.
so I guess maybe a big message is to use the substances with awareness of what you're doing, because I think
Don't use it
it's really hard to
excessively.
tell people to stop doing it.
But it's not so easy, because in most cases, people who tend to become addicted to such things are people who try to run away from the fact that they're actually suffering.
Yeah.
They refuse to
of
accept
course,
it.
yeah.
I know people who have anxiety who actually use weed a lot.
Most people use
Just
cigarettes.
to calm them.
Most people use cigarettes, but it turns out cigarettes alleviates anxiety. It turns out when you smoke cigarettes, you stop being anxious. That's why people just start smoking all the time,
Yeah.
because it makes them feel less anxious. I don't know what it does to you.
Actually, growing up, I thought like not smoking after having smoked for a while would make you shake, and that was like a side effect. But now I understand that it's already anxious people that were shaking
That
the whole
will
time,
shake,
and now after having smoked, they're okay.
Yeah,
again.
calm.
You know.
But I think that's the problem, though, especially for us in Africa, especially here in South Africa, like for the poor people, coloreds and black people. Yo, you find that
Chronically
alcohol, chronic abuse of alcohol and
Yeah,
drugs.
that's a really bad thing. Yeah.
That's the funniest thing, though. You are super poor, you can't afford anything, but somehow you always have that money for the house.
The thing is,
Exactly.
we don't want to deal with our problems, so run away.
Yeah, we're numbing.
We're using
at this point,
we're
yeah.
numbing them. We're numbing them.
Hey, it was so
Nobody
funny.
wants to show any form of weakness nowadays.
It was so funny when some dude told me that it's because Jesus told them they should drink. they're paying away.
Yeah, that's a twisted thought.
But it turns out it's in the Bible somewhere. I don't
Is
know.
it? Maybe the
I think so,
apocrypha
I
or
think
something
that's
like that, because I've heard of. It's mostly the Catholics that speak about that, because I've tried looking for it in the conventional Bibles. I don't see it, because there's an added section to the Bible. I think it's it has like the Book of Enoch and stuff like that. It's called the
Mm.
Apocrypha or something of the sort. No?
Oh.
So maybe that's where that text sits, and I think Catholics still have that text in their conventional church processes.
Mm.
So I don't know, but I haven't